Good evening, everyone. I have now arrived to the Flying J truck stop in Miraloma, California, which is in the massive Los Angeles metroplex. I'll be taking my 10-hour break here, and then I'll be continuing on to Downey, California for delivery, which will happen pretty early in the morning. So, without further ado, I'm going to show you what I promised you. So we are now on the inside of the truck. I'm going to step back in the sleeper so you can see the cab here. So the cab, well, let's first start with the truck. The truck is a Kenworth T680. It's just a model number. It's a black truck. The tractor number 726 at the current time of this filming is the truck assignment I've been given. The cab is right here, as you can see. There's a two-seat truck, and the cab starts basically where this curtain right here is and comes all the way across right here, and I'm standing in the sleeper. Let's give you a little tour of some of the controls here. Sorry for my hands. So right here we've got our our coolant temperature. Here we've got our oil pressure gauge. This is our ammeter, tells us what the battery status is. Our tachometer tells us the engine speed. Of course, don't need to explain the fuel gauge. Then we've got our speedometer. For those who are not in the US, this is in miles per hour. But we also have, as you can see here, the kilometers strip. So I can go into Canada or Mexico and drive just fine the same, although it is kind of awkward to see everything in kilometers. We do also have a few states where we see some kilometer, like up in the northernmost parts of Washington. You'll start seeing kilometers and miles an hour. It's probably for all the Canucks up there. So love you, our Canadian neighbors. Do something with Trudeau, will you? We've got our brake application pressure. This tells me how hard I'm pressing on the brake. And then we've got our air gauge. This tells us it's actually a dual needle. You see this orange one, and then underneath that is a green needle. And tells us our primary and our secondary pressures, because there's two tanks on the truck. And the maximum PSI we'll ever have on this truck is 120 PSI. This is diesel exhaust fluid. Let me get a better view of that. If there's anything that's the most worthless thing in the world on a truck, it's this stuff. This truck, I don't know what's wrong with it, but it's been guzzling this stuff. Basically, what DEF is diesel exhaust fluid. And essentially, that's just cow pee. So we put a mixture of cow pee and water in these trucks because California happens to enjoy making everybody's life miserable. Funny enough, they come up with all these laws and new things to put on trucks, yet the most dirty air in the entire country is pretty much California. So obviously it's not working. Next, we've got our axle temperatures. We've got our front axle on the truck and the drive axle on the back. I did say axle, as you probably have seen and noted in the previous videos shot in this movie. There's two axles in the rear. We typically just call it an axle, kind of like, you know, you only say on a train you've got the truck. It's not trucks and it's not axles. It's kind of the same thing. We just call this our drives. Because that's what it's doing, driving the truck. And then we have our suspension pressure, and in the back end of the truck we've got these airbags that will dump whenever we flip a switch. Over here we've got some random buttons. This increases the brightness of the dashboard. You can see it in the corner there. maybe just a little bit. Then we've got this, turns these lights off and on that are above me. And this is actually a test button. We flip this up and it tests all the lights on the outside, blinks a whole bunch of lights and everything. This right here is our trailer air brake. In America, I'm not sure about in other parts of the world like Britain and pretty much Europe, the whole of Europe. I know for sure in Canada and in lovely Mexico they have these. This allows us to apply our brakes. Like if we're rolling down the road and we lose brakes on the truck, we can just throw this out and it'll supply air to the trailer and help slow us down. Usually we only use this if we have to move our tandems, like if the tandem lock valve is not operating properly, we can wedge something in there and then we can just throw the switch down and push in our brakes, our brake supply, so that we can move our tandem trailer axle. I shouldn't have to explain this. It's a radio. This is our traction control. Sometimes we need to have better traction control. This allows us to turn it on or off. And an indicator light usually will come on and start blinking, like so. I can just turn it back off. And then this right here is our hill assist. What this does is kind of like the automatic transmission version of putting a vehicle in gear, in like first gear, and then letting off the clutch a little bit, and then the vehicle just stays there. Basically what this does is it applies the brakes and allows the brakes to stay applied even for about a few seconds after I let my foot off the brake pedal, so that I can get on the accelerator quick enough to start rolling forward up a hill. This could be kind of bothersome because it takes us a few seconds to let the brakes go. So if we're backing up and we need to have better control over our brakes, we just boom, flip that on, and on the dashboard we have a light that shows up. This does absolutely nothing. It just turns on a light. It's a spare. If we want to add on additional lights, that'll turn on. This right here is also this is part of the DPF, I'm sorry, diesel particulate filter system. The diesel particulate system is a filter with fine honeycomb mesh inside. It's kind of like a bunch of those coffee straws, and whenever it gets clogged with ash and soot, it's not ash, it's soot. What'll happen is this system, I can force it to do something called a regen, and that's what this button is for. It's to force a regen, which means regeneration. Regeneration, what that does is it takes raw fuel from the fuel tank and bypasses the engine, and has a set of special fuel injectors inside of the filter system, and it injects all of that raw fuel inside of the filter, and the hot exhaust gas from the truck's engine will ignite that fuel instantaneously, causing the filter to get stupid hot. I mean, red hot. You don't want to touch it. That's a bad thing. And when it gets red hot like that, it takes all that soot and burns it into ash, and then eventually either the ash collects at the bottom of the filter and has to be blown out in order to operate correctly again, or it has to it'll get blown out the exhaust system. Of course, I shouldn't have to explain this. This is climate control. This is not in Celsius. It is in Fahrenheit. Up here we've got our various lights. Headlights, marker lights. This is a sleeper light right here, so I can turn that on and off, as you can see. Then down here we've got our trailer and axle related stuff. This is that button I was telling you about for the suspension. I just flip this up and you might be able to hear it, you might not, but there's an air leak that happens when we flip this. A little solenoid valve opens up and causes air to dump out of the airbags in the back. This is our axle interlock. This locks, as you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3 axles. If my knuckle wasn't in the way, 1, 2, and 3 axles. And if I flip this up, basically it's the truck equivalent of 4x4, except we've got 8 wheels back here, so it's kind of like 8x8, so something like that. Yeah. And then this releases our 5th wheel. The only thing keeping the trailer on is a little bar that's about as thick as my hand is, from the top of my hand to the bottom of my thumb, and it's about as long as my hand is or so. And what that does is it slides in front of what's called a kingpin, which is about a pin 2 inches in diameter, something like that or so. And that's all that holds this trailer to this truck. So imagine the kind of ingenuity that had to go through for the kingpin system. And all this does is you flip this lever up and flip this. I'm not going to do it because it will disconnect my trailer. Just flip this up, a little light on the dashboard will come up. In fact, I can do it, but not for long. Watch this. See? Bam. If I let it go now, it will not disengage. But I will check that tomorrow during my pre-trip, because the last thing we need is to drop a trailer on the ground. And then this one right here is it's related to the 5th wheel. This is our 5th wheel slider lock. We'll just flip that up, flip this switch up, it'll pump air into a piston in the back on the 5th wheel, and then I can slide the 5th wheel back or forward to shift weight from the drive axles to the steer axles. The steer axles is the axle in the front of the truck. And so when we activate this, there's a few benefits of that. It's to, first of all, the primary goal is to shift weight where it needs to go, so that we can maintain having legal weights on the truck. It's because every axle has a certain amount of weight that it's able to bear. And also, if you have an empty trailer, which when I get to Downey, I will have an empty trailer, I can flip this switch, move the 5th wheel all the way to the front of the truck, and then the added benefit for that is it closes up the space between the front of the trailer and the back of the cab. That area back there causes a lot of turbulence and contributes to bad fuel mileage. Unfortunately, when we're loaded, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. But when we're empty, we can slide that 5th wheel forward and save a little bit of it. It's almost negligible, but honestly, the companies really don't care. They save a little money and they're like, oh yay! So there's that. Pardon the seat here. I kind of use it to just throw things on, as you can quite clearly see. I've got my rice cooker and a bunch of cables everywhere. And now we'll show you the storage. This right here is where I keep all my placards and stuff for hazmat loads. By the way, these numbers are all universal. They're UN numbers. So you can look this number up and find, like in any country, you can look this number up and it will tell you exactly what this is. And it's the same code for every product that has this code throughout the world. I've got vests and stuff, some spare lights for the trailer. I've got an emergency medical kit and some other just junk up here. This is passport and passport card, regulations book that we're required to have in the truck. This tells you everything you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. This is really cool. I just kind of keep junk up here really, to keep stuff out of the way. This right here, These are actually temperature monitors for the inside of the trailer, and sometimes the customers will leave them in the trailer, and then I get a hold of them. Since they're not going to throw them away, why should I? It's really cool. Actually, I've got one cracked open. It's a different brand, but it's still the same principle. Oh, it's right here. Got this one cracked open. Got a lithium-ion battery on it, antenna, GPS tracker, and here's another one. This is a different brand, but same concept. It's also got a similar battery in it, I think. The only reason I keep these things is because I know I can use the parts. You know, this GPS module right here, I can figure out data sheets and stuff like that to, you know, find out how I can hook it up to my own projects that I code every now and again. Keep my license and other cards up here that I need to have for like fueling at the truck stop. And up here is just a bunch of miscellaneous junk, you know, what we call trip packs. This is how I send my trips in after I scan them. Y'all won't be able to see the scanning process tomorrow. I do apologize for it. It's very tedious and unfortunately takes a long time, so I really don't want to mess with any of that. So now we're in the sleeper. Well, I'm in the sleeper. You guys are looking at, or I'm in the cab. Y'all are looking at the sleeper. Pardon the slightly messy bed. This is where I generally keep my clothes and cleaning supplies, as well as medicinal stuff and toiletries. And there's also a place up here that I store some stuff. And then here is a refrigerator, and down here is another miscellaneous type of storage. Got a movable table over here. This is my junk pile. This is my little dirty area of the truck. Down here is where I keep my food. I keep some food right here, and then I keep stuff like plates and baggies and stuff in this one. And we've got a microwave up here. And then up here we've got a bunch of food. And then, as you can see here, this is a second bed. This 2 people can sleep in here if you wanted to put them up here, but being that I'm a solo driver, I don't have any use for it other than storage, so I guess this is my second dirty area, I guess you can call it. This is pretty much all my overflow. Move this table back. And then you see my bed. It is very comfortable when I go to Indonesia with Eva. This is going to be kind of like a sad time for me because I really do enjoy this bed. It's a brand new, very comfortable bed. It's a twin size bed, so fairly big bed when you think about how much room we have on the truck. So yeah. And I guess that concludes the tour of the truck. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it wasn't a little bit more clean, but hey, I mean, the floor definitely needed it. I ended up getting diesel in the truck because somebody spilled it on the concrete when I went to fuel up earlier this evening. So what are you gonna do? So anyways, next up I'm gonna show you guys probably me eating or something, I don't know. So anyways, peace out. Hey everybody, so we're going to discuss food options on the road. Now, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot for us out there that's actually within healthy realms. And it's quite unfortunate because for the kind of stuff that we do, it's a very sedentary life. And as you can tell, I'm quite sedentary. That and I eat a lot of food, kind of. I'm trying to quit that. But if I go back into the truck stop, that's pretty much that way. There's a Wendy's, so that's fast food, and then in the main truck stop There's stuff like candy, burgers, chicken wings, all sorts of just garbage food. And now there's also some healthy stuff, but it's so expensive that it's just cheaper to get, and it takes time to prepare, that it's cheaper just to go ahead and buy the garbage, really. And that's what happened to me when I got into this industry in 2012. I ended up ballooning because of some issues that I was going through, but also because I ate a lot of food, and the food is very, very unhealthy. In fact, at that time, there wasn't as much healthy options out there, and it's only recent times, within the last couple years or so, that they've actually been putting out stuff like fruit, vegetables, to include carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, celery, salads, that kind of stuff. So, fortunately for me, the company that I drive for, they, in every single one of their trucks, has a refrigerator, which you guys have seen in the last video, and I actually have the microwave and the rice cooker that you saw earlier, and I could cook my own foods. The only barrier is that it's time consuming. Generally speaking, I can't really prepare food until I stop for the night, and I have an option to either eat a light meal and limit my calories at night, or eat a heavy meal and know that I'm going to be full. So it's kind of, one of those things, So anyways, I actually found some of these things. This particular flavor is a Cobb salad, and I've got about 6 or so more inside the refrigerator. And I've also got some other kind of stuff like meat and my favorite ribeye and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much what we got here. I'm going to say bon voyage for now, so I can eat this deliciousness. And then, I'll see you in another video.